Okay, so I'm pulling an audible. I was going to start with our largest specimen in Lake Erie, but I've come back around to beginning with the oldest. As I was writing and researching these stories, it just flowed better and made more sense. Coincidentally, the oldest and largest Lake Erie cryptid is one and the same. This episode is part 2 in our Lake Erie cryptid series. The following 8 or 9 episodes are going to be mini-episodes. They will each cover a version of Bessie seen in Lake Erie, differing in temperaments, descriptions, etc. I recommend starting with the first episode in the series, as it gives a general overview of the lake and its cryptid history. But, before we begin, I want to thank the sponsors of this week's episodes. If you're interested in diving into Lake Erie yourself, or if you're already a diver and want advanced training or a private guided dive, reach out to Constellation Dive Group. They offer training from your first diving class to the professional levels, as well as any specialties useful for Lake Erie, like deep diving, wreck diving, diving first aid, and many others. Links to their services and socials will be in the description. Ballyraven Patreon members also receive a discount on their classes. This episode is brought to you by the Ballyraven Patreons Team Bigfoot. Thank you to Ronald Miller, Rick Belcher, and Lennon Roman. If you'd like to keep supporting cryptid content, consider joining the Patreon to listen to these episodes ad-free and early. Most membership tiers also receive cryptid artwork in the mail. Now back to the show. The first preserved and perhaps documented sighting of something especially unusual in Lake Erie happened all the way back in the 1700s. The region was quite different back then, but still a hub of activity. Once populated by several indigenous peoples, like the Erie, Attawandaron, and Iroquois, they were slain and pushed out of the area over the course of this century. Lake Erie was actually the last of the Great Lakes to have been explored by Europeans, seen for the first time by one Frenchman or another in either the early or mid-1600s. Forts and trading posts dotted the lake's shores as French-Canadian traders and trappers settled the area in increasing numbers. The British then moved in, hoping to dominate and control the fur trade. Then came New Englanders, New Yorkers, and those of the other 13 colonies. Before and after the American Revolution, Lake Erie was, and continued to be, an important waterway, transporting goods and people between the interior of North America and its Atlantic coast. Off the lake's southern shore, near Sandusky, Ohio in 1793, a sloop was in the water. Sloops are a kind of sailboat. I couldn't find many details about the boat or its occupants, but the sloop was named the Felicity, and they were out on the water that day to hunt ducks. While they were out there, a shadow overtook the water below. Passing swiftly, a creature had swam under them. They couldn't make out any details, aside from that it was very large and appeared to be a giant snake. When pressed, the captain estimated that the thing must have been larger than a rod, an old unit of measurement that translates to about 16.5 feet, or about 5 meters for my metric users. I have no idea where this little bit of folklore comes from, or in this section of our Lake Erie Cryptid tour, and I'm not sure how legitimate they are, if they truly originate from this time period, or were added much later, fabricated. But if real, we also don't know how those of the time responded. Perhaps it was just a blip of a story. With so much going on at the time, maybe it just was overlooked and not something people may have been particularly interested or invested in at the time. Nevertheless, no one left anything behind talking about it, recounting similar sightings, or even trying to discount this sloop. And in the region, there were no other documented sightings of anything strange or monstrous, which makes a lot of sense, as tensions and conflict were really overwhelming the lake region. As the Napoleonic Wars, the War of 1812, and an actual battle within Lake Erie came and passed, the creature then made a return. 24 years after the initial sighting, one day in July 1817, another boat and crew saw something weird. This time, the witnesses were on a schooner, a sailboat with more than one mast, those tall pole things. Gliding under them was a dark creature slithering through the lake's depths. They guessed it somewhere between 30 and 40 feet long, or 9 to 12 meters, more than double the estimate of the first sighting. More people were living and working near or on the lake than in the late 18th century, so maybe this story sparked a little bit more excitement. Because by the end of the summer, 2 more sightings took place. The first was a serpentine monster, but the second was something different. With each story in this segment, we seem to have even less information about the boat and its crews. We don't even know the type of craft for this third story. Regardless, one day, yet again, another boat was out on the water. Out in the distance, this crew spotted what they recognized as the creature. A huge, dark, snake-like beast. It was swimming a bit closer to the surface, and parts of it were bobbing above and out of the water, wetly shimmering with copper colors. Funnily enough, this one was even bigger than the last, an estimated 60 feet or 18 meters, once again, doubling the last sighting's measurement. This crew didn't just watch or cower in fear, though. They reacted with violence. Shooting at the behemoth with muskets, the lead ball simply bounced off its scaly flesh, causing no damage and not even eliciting a reaction. The thing just continued on, disappearing in the distance, deep underwater. A strictly serpent-like Bessie was not seen again until the 1960s. In short, we can condense this creature to a few sentences. It was somewhere between 20 to 60 feet long, a size likely embellished in either panic or boast, had a calm or passive demeanor, a dark, shadowy form, and hardy, bright gold-brown greenish scales that were impenetrable by musket balls. And that's about it. All we can pull from these 3 very, very brief stories about a giant lake serpent I'm going to name Old Copper, the largest and oldest version of the Lake Erie Monster. It only gets stranger and more detailed from here.